I think the Saints need to kick the tires on Jameis Winston. Now, hear me out, okay? I know a lot of you are belly laughing, you're rolling your eyes, and you're probably thinking I'm just doing this for attention because it's March 23rd and there's no sports. Not the case at all, okay? Let me, if you would, make my case. Let's start with what we know, okay? What we know is that the Saints have Drew Brees on a 2-year contract where when we see how it's structured, we'll likely see that only the first year is guaranteed. It's effectively a 1-year deal so they can, over 2 years, that they can spread out the money. Okay, fine, however you want to do it. You got a 41-year-old quarterback that, as Mike Detillier told us a couple of weeks ago on the show, was basically telling people at the Pro Bowl he was done. As he removed himself, had some time, decided he was going to come give it another go. I'm operating under the assumption that if Drew Brees was that close to hanging it up this year, then after this season, he's likely going to be done. Not saying that's definitive. I'm operating under a probability. It's more likely, Drew Brees, that this is his last season than it is not. That's what I would say. Not guaranteed, but more likely. The only other quarterback you got on your roster right now is Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill is most valuable to this team in his slash role. He's most valuable when you can put him in the Wildcat, have him run the ball, put him as an end, blocking down on defensive ends, catching passes, blocking punts, covering kicks and punts. Like, that's where Taysom Hill for this team right now is his most valuable. Maybe one day he is your franchise quarterback and he's more valuable in that role, but that day ain't today because you got Drew Brees. But you're going to keep Taysom Hill on the roster. Fine. You can't keep Taysom Hill in his slash role if that's your only backup quarterback. Because you can't have your only backup quarterback covering kicks and punts and trying to run over linebackers, because what if he gets hurt? Then you got no backup. Similarly, what if Drew Brees smashes his thumb on Aaron Donald's helmet, misses 5 games, and Taysom Hill has to be your quarterback? Now you've removed him from that slash role. It's not debatable. It's precisely the reason the Saints just spent $7.2 million on Teddy Bridgewater as their backup quarterback. And during the 5 weeks Brees was out, Teddy went 5-0. He kept the wheels on the thing. So if we establish the fact that you got to have another quarterback, the question then becomes, who do you get and what's affordable? Some people are going to say, go to the draft. And okay, if that's what they elect to do, if the Saints elect to go draft a quarterback, 24 overall, whatever it may be, maybe it's Jordan Love, maybe it's Jacob Eason, I don't know. Whoever Sean Payton falls in love with during the draft process, maybe that's the guy. And if that's it, okay, that's it. I can live with that. But I also think you're taking an enormous risk if you replicate the exact same scenario of this past season, where Drew Brees is your guy, you're a championship contender, Brees has to miss a handful of games, and especially in a season when the 1 seed has never been more valuable. Expanding the playoffs, only one team gets a bye. It's never been more valuable to get the 1 seed than it is now because only one team gets the bye. You need a quarterback that can keep you in the mix for that. And I don't know that I would trust a rookie. Not to say he can't do it, but if you're looking at probability. So maybe they draft a quarterback, or maybe they go add someone in veteran free agency. So then you start to look at who's available and what's it going to cost. When I look at the available quarterbacks in free agency, I'm looking at this list right now. Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, Drew Stanton, Josh McCown, Trevor Siemian, Mike Glennon, Blaine Gabbert, Matt Moore. You get the point. Blake Bortles, David Fales, Geno Smith, Kyle Sloter. You understand? Brandon Allen, Matt Sims, Josh Woodrum. Do you see a better option there? And we can talk about Cam Newton in a second. But if I look at the most well-known, most accomplished quarterbacks on that list, Joe Flacco has won a Super Bowl, has been a Super Bowl MVP, got a 9-figure contract from the Ravens, and they cut him. and he goes to Denver, and they're like, maybe you'll be the guy. But even so, Denver had a backup plan. They drafted a quarterback in Drew Lock. Drew Lock ended up playing, and now they cut Flacco. That's not one but two teams that have said no thank you to Joe Flacco. He's done. Put a fork in him. Cam Newton is 31 years old and a former NFL MVP, and he might just be the guy. Might be. But he might also be broken. He might not be able to recover from his injuries. And if Cam Newton doesn't have the dimension of his game, which makes him Superman, where he can beat you with his feet and outrun a defensive back or run over a linebacker, then he's not as valuable. Because he's never been the guy that's just going to sit in the pocket and pick you apart. Not to say he can't throw the football, but that's never been the thing that made him so valuable. Which brings you to Jameis, who's 26 years old, has all the physical ability you could possibly want. Made him the number one pick in the draft. And he's coming off of a season where he threw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Hell, there's only a handful of quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that have ever thrown for 5,000 yards, and that cat is on it. Don't tell me he doesn't have ability. The interceptions are absolutely a problem. He got LASIK this offseason. Maybe that will help. The other part is I don't need Jameis Winston to be my franchise quarterback. I'm not telling you bring that guy in to be the franchise. I'm telling you bring that guy in to plug the dam if it starts to leak. And it also helps that Jameis Winston's been in your division the last 5 years. And your head coach has a scouting report on that guy and knows that guy's talent. Similarly, your talent in New Orleans know him. And he knows you very well from having played you 10 times over the last 5 years. There's a lot that makes sense about that. Some people will bring up off the field issues. What I would submit to you is, have you ever heard teammates talk badly about Jameis Winston? We can talk about the crab legs. We can talk about sitting on the table at Florida State and shouting obscenities. All those things. And I'm not denying that any of that stuff happened. Or wasn't a big deal or any of that stuff. But what I would say to you is, do you trust Sean Payton to make a good personnel decision? Because he has obviously shown that he's willing to put character in the locker room, making sure he has good culture in the locker room as a top priority. And if Peyton co-signs, then I'm good from that respect. So if you recap, you need a backup. The free agent market isn't littered with great options. You know this guy who's in his prime and has all the physical ability in the world, started 70 games in his career and just led the NFL in passing. You could do way worse. So then you come down to the question of money. And some people have said, well, Jameis is going to want too much. Jameis can ask for whatever the hell he wants. Don't mean he's going to get it. Let's call it what it is. Spotrac has the market value for Jameis Winston, and they calculate the market value based on quarterbacks that are similar point in their career, who have similar statistics, and what their contracts are. So Spotrac has calculated Jameis Winston's market value at $26.7 million average annual salary. They say he's worth a 4-year, $107 million contract. Let's get real, y'all. Jameis Winston ain't getting 4 years, 107 M's. Ain't happening. It's not going to happen. They compare him to Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, kind of in that mix based on performance, age, salary, all that sort of stuff. The reality is, when you look at what's out there, since he's going to draft Joe Burrow, Miami's going to draft Tua Tagovailoa. The Chargers have said they're not signing a free agent veteran quarterback. They're going to stick with Tyrod Taylor and probably draft, we'll see who it is. It's very likely Justin Herbert from Oregon, 6 overall, or if they move up. So the fact is, you've got this game of musical chairs. The music's about to stop, and there ain't enough chairs. Because you're looking at Jameis, you're looking at Cam, you're looking at Flacco, you're looking at Andy Dalton. I mean, where do they all go? There aren't enough starter spots. So what likely is going to happen is you're going to have guys who have been starting quarterbacks in the NFL go somewhere this year as a backup, and next year when the quarterback carousel spins and jobs come open, they'll have a better shot of starting again. So if you're Jameis, why not go to New Orleans and sit behind Drew Brees and learn under Brees and Sean Payton, and maybe if Drew Brees retires, you have an opportunity to win that job. Or maybe you do exactly what Teddy Bridgewater just did and parlay that into a giant contract somewhere else. A 1-year kind of prove-it deal to sit and wait, because next year at this time, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger could all be retired. Not to mention whatever guys are going to get cut or leave in free agency. And when the carousel starts spinning, you're going to have a lot of jobs open up again. But what I do know is the Saints need another quarterback on this roster. And the best one available in free agency is Jameis Winston. And you might be able to get him affordably for 1 year. And that ain't a bad option. Now, some people have mentioned Cam Newton. Like I said, 31, injury prone. I don't know that Cam has it anymore, which is probably why Carolina's moving on from it. I don't know that I would prefer Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston. Andy Dalton's won a whole lot of nothing in his career, and Jameis has been more productive, a more productive player. So where's the better option? Where's the better option? If you trust Sean Payton, that he wouldn't bring a bad character guy in the locker room, and you got a guy that just led the NFL in passing, if you can get him affordably to sit behind Drew Brees and work with Sean Payton, why not? And there's all kind of crab legs in New Orleans. Think about all the seafood restaurants in New Orleans. You don't have to steal them. He's made a lot of money. He can do an endorsement deal for crab legs. All right. That's my pitch. Some of y'all laugh. Some of y'all think I'm crazy. Some of y'all think I'm stupid. Some of y'all just won't look past the stupid video of him eating the W, which he looks like a jackass. He does, admittedly. And some people in life have an opportunity to mature, and maybe this is the kick in the butt, not having his, being kicked to the curb by the team that drafted him. Maybe this is it for Jameis. Maybe not. I'd certainly inquire.